Over the next year, an AI product manager is going to be one of the most desired roles in tech, and most people trying to get this role are preparing for the job that existed 3 years ago, so the ones who don't understand it will never get hired. In this video, I'll show you the full roadmap to become an AI product manager in 2026, how to prepare for this, and the one honest part nobody warns you about. To see how it actually works, I would compare it to AI engineering. An AI engineer is the one who has to handle all the heavy technical work. They're writing the Python, wiring up the models, and setting up the systems that take the data and run it in production. But as a product manager, you don't need to do any of that. Your job is to sit between those engineers and the rest of the business and decide what actually makes sense and if it's worth building. The core skill isn't coding, it's not building the models from scratch, and it's not being the one who has to fix things when something breaks in production. All you handle is data literacy and judgment. You read the data, look at what the model is putting out, and decide what should be built to solve a specific problem. And mostly when people ask about the pay, they're surprised. Usually it's almost the same for the product manager and the engineer. A senior AI engineer in the US makes roughly $150,000 to $250,000, and a senior AI product manager is right behind at $140,000 to $230,000. So you give up a little, but you're still in a high salary range, and you skip years of going deep into the engineering side. And the point here is that you're not getting hired to be the most technical person in the room. You're getting hired to know what to build and why. And the reason this role is becoming so popular right now comes down to one thing. It's that AI shift that changed everything in the industry. They all have access to AI now, which means they have access to the same models and tools. Most of them have no idea what to actually build with it or whether the thing they built is even working. That gap between having AI and knowing what to do with it is exactly what an AI product manager is there for. 2 years ago, an AI feature was mostly just a text box that called an API. Now you're shipping systems that actually take actions, agents that browse the web, write and execute their own code, and coordinate across a bunch of other tools. And that completely changes what the job actually is. Now you're not just owning a single feature, but you're designing how the whole system is supposed to behave, and you're still doing it without building it yourself. And the actual hiring statistics show it. The number of people moving into AI product manager roles doubled last year, with more than 12,000 new hires in under 2 years. And the skills people gained came with a real salary increase. Looking across more than 1 billion job postings, the roles that ask for AI skills pay around 28% more than the same role without them, and that climbs higher once you stack a couple of AI skills together. The job is now much bigger, so demand is growing faster than the number of people who can actually do it, and that gap is expected to persist for years. So this is not just the usual case of a hyped role with 1,000 applicants for every seat. Right now, there are more of these jobs open than there are people who can fill them, which rarely happens in tech. But landing one of these comes with this one thing nobody warns you about. The job looks slightly different to what you might have at the beginning, because it all comes down to one strange catch. You're managing software that never behaves the same way twice. Normally you build a product, test it once, and it does the same thing every time. The AI you're managing doesn't work like that. You can ask it the same question twice and get 2 different answers back. So a huge part of your week, something regular product managers never deal with, is owning the evals. But most of your time goes into the data rather than the model itself. You write the specification for what data the model learns from and how it gets labeled. Because most of the time when an AI feature is underperforming, the model is fine. The problem is the data underneath that's messy. You get that wrong, and the smartest model in the world still gives you a bad result. Then there's setting the guardrails, which is a design decision. You decide what the AI does when it isn't sure, whether it answers anyway, stays quiet, or hands the call off to a human. And you decide which tasks are low stakes enough to let it run on its own, like sorting support tickets, versus the ones where a person has to check it first. That means deciding what good enough even means for the feature, building the tests that measure it, and then watching those numbers long after launch to catch it quietly getting worse. But apart from that, you have to sit in meetings and manage the expectations, which is the hard part. You have to explain to an executive that pushing the model's accuracy for even a fraction often costs much more money and effort, and the rest of the time, you're watching for the kind of problem that never shows up as an error at all. Say a data table feeding your model switches from dollars to cents one day. Nothing crashes, nothing flags it. The model just quietly makes every decision on numbers that are off by 100 times, and you might not catch it for weeks until a key metric drops or a customer complains. That's the real reason these roles pay what they do. You're being paid to own something that's never really finished. So if that's the actual day-to-day, the real question is what you need to learn to do it, and it starts somewhere most people skip right past. What you need first are the core product management skills you get before touching AI. And there's one common mistake people make. They go straight for the AI, take courses and certificates on machine learning, and they never actually learn product management. Then they wonder why nobody calls them back. Think of AI as a tool that can help you get better results. But product management is how you deliver what you've learned. The companies hiring you assume you can already write a PRD, define a user story, run a discovery sprint, and think in real metrics. But there's also a soft skill that matters way more than most people expect. The one that actually separates a good AI product manager from an easily replaceable one. Because much of this job is getting other people on the same page, it really comes down to communication, and specifically being able to tell a clear story. You're the one who takes a messy technical idea and explains it to an executive in a way that actually gets them to fund it, then turns around and explains to a customer why it's worth their time. A roadmap nobody says yes to is worth nothing, and the better you get at making people understand and care about what you're building, the more valuable you become, no matter how strong the tech behind it is. If you can't do that, knowing what a transformer is won't save you. So before anything else, you get the product fundamentals down, and then you learn just enough about the AI to be useful. You don't need to build a model, but you do need to understand the words, the difference between training and inference, between fine-tuning and prompting, and how latency changes the experience for the person using it. When you can walk into a meeting and ask whether a bigger model is really worth it when it costs around 3 times as much to run and doubles the response time, the engineers start trusting you. And then there's the one thing that gives you a higher chance of getting hired. You build and ship one small AI product. Maybe a resume assistant that takes a job description plus your background and writes a tailored cover letter, or something that takes a spreadsheet of customer reviews and pulls out the main themes and the overall sentiment, or a simple search that can answer questions across your own set of documents. Tools like Cursor and Claude mean you can build one of these without really coding it. Then you take it through the whole product loop. You define the problem, you build the thing, you check if it actually worked, and you fix what didn't. The deliverable isn't just the working tool, but the actual PRD you wrote before you started, the design decisions you made and why, and what you do differently in version 2. That whole thing is your portfolio. Do that, and you've gone from someone who has read about AI to someone who actually knows how to use it. But having a portfolio and actually getting hired off it are two different things, and there's a specific way to put it in front of the right people. It's not about hitting the apply button everywhere you can or memorizing the same lines to say in the interview. Most people send out the same application through Easy Apply on 100 listings and then hear nothing back. The ones who actually get hired do the complete opposite. They make the work visible. You post the project, you write up a short breakdown of an AI product you took apart and what you'd change about it. You don't need a huge following for this, you just need the right few people to see it. But showing up with a real product teardown you've made instantly makes you look way more credible and worth hiring. And while you're at it, sort out your LinkedIn, because that's the first place a recruiter looks, usually before they even open your resume. Get a clean professional photo and write a headline that says exactly what you do. Not just that you're an aspiring product manager open to work, because companies would hire you only if they clearly see you can solve their problem. Then put your AI projects and that teardown right in your about and experience sections. A profile that looks like you already do this gets companies reaching out to you instead of you chasing them. But if you still want to increase your chances of getting hired and reach out by yourself, make it personal. One specific message to one specific person beats 100 mass applications every time. And don't wait until you feel ready. Just apply early. Even the interviews that don't go well still help, because they show you exactly what gets asked, so you walk into the next one already prepared. Once you're actually in the interview, watch for the questions that sound really vague, like design a product for this kind of user. People get stuck on those because it feels like there's no right answer. But that's the whole test. They're not checking whether you can list features, they're checking whether you start from the real problem and what the user actually needs and struggles with. Slow down, work out who you're solving the problem for, then build your answer up from there. If you do that, you've shown them you can do the real job, which gets you the offer. But one quick warning while you're at it: skip the roles that just want to bolt AI on to look modern and go for the ones where you actually own a real problem, because that's where you grow, and that's where the work is real. Realistically, going from 0 to interview ready is about 4 to 12 months, depending on your starting point. It's not going to happen overnight, but it won't take you years either. Do all that, and you stop being one of the hundreds nobody calls back, and you become the one companies are begging to hire. But honestly, getting hired is only one way to cash in on all of this, because those same skills can build you an income of your own. And I broke down the 6 AI business ideas that can make you richer in 2026. Go click the video on screen right now and pick the one you can start this week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.